Hi everyone, I'm Shanna and welcome to my channel. This first video is going to be the start of a series I'm hoping to get going here on my channel. And that series is what I'm calling my cinema reactions series, where in each video I'll watch something and then after I finish it, I'll record my reaction, talk about my thoughts, etc. I'll be honest, I only made it about halfway through the movie before I decided to give it up. And I still want to react to it just because you sort of know what happens because it is a live action remake for Disney with the emphasis on the villain. I was really annoyed that Disney was making this movie. Going into Cruella, the thing that really bothered me was that they're trying to give a backstory and reasoning to a villain who didn't necessarily need motivation to be a villain. One of the things that I was spoiled for, which I honestly didn't mind that I was spoiled for, was the fact that Cruella hated dogs and specifically hated Dalmatians because her mother was killed by Dalmatians. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's such a stupid reason to hate dogs. It's such a stupid reason to hate Dalmatians, and like, Dalmatians are not the nicest dogs to begin with. But like, Cruella made the Dalmatians very fucking vicious and just very annoying, you know? It's like, if you're gonna hate Dalmatians, just hate, like, another little thing too is that like Cruella picks up this puppy when she goes to the boarding school. I think it's the boarding school. She goes to the boarding school and then she hangs on to that puppy, that Buddy, she names it. That's such a cheesy name for a dog too, like Buddy, seriously. So those were like my main issues, where it's just like the mom getting killed by the dogs and then that's why she hates Dalmatians. The part I stopped at was right when Estella was leaving Jasper and Hudson and saying like, we're gonna get that necklace back. That was where I ended, and I don't plan to pick it up, mainly because it's like, I did skip ahead a little bit and it just kind of went downhill from there. I did like the scene like right before that where you see the car chase that replicates the animated version. That was one thing I did like about it, because it's like you kind of get that hint of like the crazy Cruella from the animated. So I thought that was fun. But to get into my commentary. So like the first thing that really kind of bothered me about Cruella was that there were too many obvious tropes, so to say, within like the first 5 minutes. I made a list of all the tropes that I picked up within like the hour. Quite a few of them popped up within the first 5 minutes. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't mind tropes, it's just that with Cruella, they're trying to make an unsympathetic villain sympathetic when Cruella didn't need to be sympathized with. We didn't need an explanation, as I've sort of said in different ways. Cruella didn't need a reason why she hated dogs. She didn't need the audience to sympathize with her. The 9 tropes that I pointed out, or that I noticed within that first hour-ish, were the "I'm not like other girls" trope. I am going to say it in this weird voice because I get so annoyed by these. The "it's the world's fault, it's not my fault. It's the world, not me." Dead parents. You don't see the father, because I assume father's dead. So you have both parents dead, but at the same time it's like the Baroness was her actual mother. Yeah, anyway. At least one parent dead, which is such a typical Disney trope, and specifically Disney. This was the first place I felt like I belonged. I couldn't help it, like it was out of my control. That's 5 tropes. The token BIPOC friend. The found family, like, found family doesn't bother me, but it's just like, all of these tropes were adding up. That's 7 tropes. And the last 2 were the genius had to stoop low. And then the last trope was friends getting her what she wanted, like through some act of like stealing or like manipulation of some sort. These tropes, and these 9 tropes, aren't bad in and of themselves. Just quite a few of them were like, right off the bat within the first 5 minutes, way too obvious, and just like, it's one of those things where it's like they're so outright and so obvious that it's almost becomes a facepalm seriously moment. So to get into the bullet points that I created, first things first is that mom, like, she, like, it's no one, like, in the scenario of the movie Cruella, it's no fucking wonder that Estella became Cruella and just stuck with it and ran with it. Because it's like, talk about giving your child issues. First thing is, like, when she, like, there's a scene where, like, they're making the clothes for the doll, I think. The mom was just like, your name's Estella, not Cruella. And then, like, at the school, like, the mom's just like, what did we say when Cruella shows up? She's almost enabling Cruella's bad behavior as a child, where instead of letting her daughter get expelled and learn from that lesson, like, you can't start picking fights, like, Shania was like, oh, I'm withdrawing my daughter. My daughter's not going to receive the punishment for, like, even if Cruella didn't start the fights, like, or Estella at the time, I guess, even if she didn't start the fights, it's like she's still actively engaged in them. It's one thing to stand up for yourself. It's another thing to, like, actively engage in the fighting, and, like, that's a bit of a blurred line, because, like, Estella was standing up for herself, but at the same time, it's like, she could have gone about it in a more subtle way. She 100% could have been more subtle about it, could have been more petty about it, and not outright have been fighting, which would have been more in character with, like, Cruella of the older animated 101 Dalmatians, and then the live action 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close, like, the petty, subversive, like, behind the scenes. And also too, like, with one thing that bothered me was the dog, like, the Dalmatians, when they're going after Estella's mom. Like, it's when they're in, like, maybe it's taking me a minute to collect my thoughts, but maybe this is just my assumption based on, like, how dogs are when they're in attack mode, but I wouldn't expect 3 dogs to just zero in on one person. Maybe they do if they're well trained, but with the way they had these Dalmatians act, like, I was half expecting them to start going after other people at the Baroness's party. Also too, like, I think that Estella's mother went down way too easily. I get it, it's Disney, but I was, like, I wasn't expecting her mother to fall off the cliff because she was pushed down by the dogs. I was expecting the Dalmatians to, like, tear her to shreds, and as I said, I get it that it's Disney, so they're not going to do it, something like that, but, like, part of me expected this to happen off camera, where Estella's mom gets mauled to death by the Dalmatians, and then maybe you see, like, the kind of like how you see on crime shows, where you see the body being covered by a tarp or something and being carried off on a gurney, I think it's called. And I was expecting something like that, where she was mauled to death by the Dalmatians. But no, it's like a simple push off the cliff, which would, like, it would kill someone. And again, it's Disney, so I understand that they're not gonna do that, but, like, I was expecting more than a shove off the cliff. And of course, this place happens in, like, a large mansion on a cliff at the edge of a sea on a dark, stormy night, and of course it happens there. Of course it does. That bothered me too, where it's like, be a little bit more creative, like, have it happen in the middle of the day, you know? Young Cruella dyeing her hair is exactly the way I would expect a child to dye their hair, but at the same time, part of me is just like, or young Estella, I should say. Part of my mind was just like, that's not how you dye your hair. I started laughing when Cruella got her job at, like, the Baroness's store. Like, I started laughing. And it's like, yeah, this is supposed to make her sympathetic, like, oh, she got the worst job there. No, it doesn't make her sympathetic. I just laughed. It was great. Emma Thompson's character, the Baroness, is, like, a great, morally gray, almost villainous character. She's not fully a villain, but she's definitely very morally gray, borderline villain, where It's sort of what you would expect from someone in that position. And she was fantastic. I loved her. She was the best thing about this movie, in my opinion. It was just like, I kind of want, she would put the cucumbers on her eyes, and part of me just wanted her to eat the cucumbers, because that's what I would have done. One little line that bothers me is so the scene where Estella, excuse me, gets drunk and then totally redesigns the window model and then falls asleep in it, and the manager guy of the store finds her and she says, "Oh, farts." Again, I get it. It's a Disney movie and she can't say fuck, but oh, farts? I'm sure you could say something like bloody hell in a Disney movie, and given that it's England, Britain, bloody hell would be appropriate. I have two more little comments about what I watched. The first one is that Estella's scene as Cruella, her entrance to the Baroness's party, what? How did she get her normal hair back so quickly? As someone that, I get it, it's Disney time and Disney logic, movie logic, but as someone who has dyed their hair, it takes a while for natural hair color to grow back. And how did she get that so easily? And how did she get it to grow back without any excess color? And then the other thing is that, for me at least, her entrance felt a little stupid. I didn't think that it fit the whole image of Cruella, especially the one that we get from the 101 Dalmatians movies. It didn't fit Cruella. The way she was walking kind of bothered me. And just I thought the fire part was cool. That was another scene that was featured in the trailers. But I was expecting more of a build-up. I was expecting more to the build-up to that scene, rather than her just weirdly sauntering in, sashaying in. I was expecting more than that. I think for me, another little point that bothered me is that I like Emma Stone. I don't think that there has really been a movie where I disliked her performance or her character, except for this. Her performance in Cruella was fine. I don't think she has the right facial structure for Cruella. She was definitely able to play Cruella well, but for me, Emma Stone didn't really look the part of Cruella. As I said, she did act the part of Cruella very well, but I just didn't think that she looked the part. It softened up Cruella's character a little bit too much for me. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for my next one.